All right, guys, welcome back for another video. In today's video, I want to cover the topic of the MtGox rumor on Twitter. Basically, you have this rumor saying that the MtGox Trustee is going to dump 150,000 Bitcoin on the market. So actually, that rumor is not true. If you guys aren't familiar with MtGox, basically MtGox is or was the largest Bitcoin trading exchange back in 2014. Not only did it represent the largest percentage of the total trading volume in Bitcoin, but it also represented a huge amount of the total circulating supply of Bitcoin. We're talking about 850,000 Bitcoin. And the exchange was hacked in 2014. The hackers stole all the Bitcoin. That Bitcoin was never recovered. So of course the company declares bankruptcy. And although the 150,000 Bitcoin were stolen and never recovered, the company had 150,000 Bitcoin on its balance sheet. And when the company went insolvent and declared bankruptcy, that 150,000 Bitcoin got frozen as part of the company's assets and tied up in the legal proceedings that followed. And this company was domiciled in Japan, so most of the court proceedings took place in Japan. And then you got these Japanese trustees who were supposedly finally going to pay out some of the company's assets after its bankruptcy to the depositors who are now being treated as creditors. So the company owes its depositors 850,000 Bitcoin. Quite a lot of money at this point, right? But it only has 150,000, right? So it can only give its depositors a fraction of what they're owed. Now, if you divide 850,000 by the actual amount they have, 150,000, it's roughly 18%. So the assets that still remain are roughly 18% of what's owed. So you think that, you have these depositors who had Bitcoin denominated promises in 2014, who, even though they're taking, an 18% haircut on that amount because it was from 2014, it's still a significantly larger amount in dollar terms. So, theoretically, this $150,000 could hit the market whenever this trustee decides to pay out the funds. Now, the rumor on Twitter is not true, right? The rumor was that the trustee would pay out in August. Well, it's September and the trustee still hasn't paid out. This whole article is basically a creditor for the MtGox case coming out and saying, dispelling the rumor, saying, no, that rumor is not true. We haven't paid out. We don't actually, they say they don't have plans to pay out at this point. Well, that could be misleading. They do have plans to pay out, but there's no official timeline at this point. So, it's very easy to create, fear and doubt around a situation like this. If you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you probably have heard this story before. I know I have. It's a story that seems to come up every quarter. And the reason why is because it's just very easy to make things up about this, right? I mean, you could just say that the trustees are going to pay out tomorrow, right? And because it's legal proceedings, it's confidential information. No one can confirm or deny that. So it's very easy to spread fear around this. And some of the best fear and doubt stories have a shred of truth rooted within them, right? Because eventually, at some point, the trustee will probably pay out this 150,000 BTC. Now, where it gets interesting is really this is the number to focus on, right? Because this is the number 150,000 BTC is what the trustee has in its possession currently and is preparing to distribute to the depositors who are being treated as creditors. Now, the depositors have the choice to convert whatever portion of this Bitcoin they want when they receive those funds, and the trustee will do that exchange for them. And now that's totally an individual decision. Any people make their own individual decisions and then send that to the trustee, and the trustee makes that conversion for them. So people have different opinions about what percentage of Bitcoin will be converted. There's certain narratives like, oh, well, people are going to sell all of it. And then you hear other people say that, they're not going to sell any of it. Now they know what it's like to be a hodler. They're going to continue to hodl. Well, we know in reality, the truth probably lies somewhere around the median, right? So if I were doing this analysis, I would just, for the sake of argument, make the assumption that, a 50-50 split, when the trustee does pay out, the conversion to cash will fall somewhere around 50%. And 75 Bitcoin, that means 75,000 Bitcoin will hit the market at the same time as sell orders. Now, will that all happen at once or over a period of time? That's not as clear. But the point is, that's a big supply distribution on the market, right? 75,000 Bitcoin. To put that in perspective, the Luna Terra dump, which caused the liquidation cascade earlier this spring, that was initiated by an 80,000 Bitcoin market sell from the Luna Foundation onto the market into a highly leveraged market, which caused a further liquidation cascade. Initially down to 30,000, and then again, as more players got liquidated, down to 20,000. So that's a long way of saying that, this is a very important thing to keep an eye on, right? I mean, when that trustee does pay out, that's going to represent a huge amount of supply hitting the market, right? And if you're in Bitcoin, you understand the importance of supply demand dynamics, right? If all of a sudden there's more supply, that is a major, major headwind for price. In my opinion, it's the most major headwind above any other macro factors. Again, just assuming that assuming that demand remains constant and supply suddenly increases dramatically, that's going to have a negative effect on price. Just basic supply and demand dynamics. Anyway, I hope I resolved some of that or clarified the issue. Again, the MtGox trustee could pay out, but when they do pay out, we might not necessarily know when they'll pay out. So this is not necessarily an actionable piece of information, but maybe we do get warning about it. And if we do get warning about it, and we know that a certain amount of Bitcoin is going to hit the market at the same time, that would be a reasonable place in the market to manage risk, right? And at the very least, lessen risk and not be exposed to a sudden and violent move. Because again, a lot of these liquidations in Bitcoin happen very quickly and very suddenly, and people will say things like, "Well, it happened so fast, right?" And then the market rebalances faster. So if you can keep tabs on things that could lead to that scenario, right? That can be very helpful. And depending on your risk appetite and your exposure at that time, could save you from a pretty serious loss. Anyway, I hope you guys found this useful. If you guys like this content, just make sure to subscribe to the channel, and catch you guys in the next upload.